What hurts more? Loving someone who doesn't love you, or stepping into a marriage where love never existed? I still don't know the answer, but I do know this. Silence can be louder than screaming. And the day I became Claire Falk, silence screamed in my face. It didn't start at the wedding. It started in the bookstore 6 days before, when the wind outside howled hard enough to shake the glass, and I found my uncle pacing by the travel section like a man waiting for his own sentencing. "You're not going to like this," he said. He was right. I didn't like it. I hated it. But I did it anyway. He owed money. A lot of it. To people who didn't do payment plans or mercy. The kind of debt you don't come back from unless you sell something big. Something alive. Or someone. And I was the someone. Leonard Falk was looking for a wife, not a lover, not a companion. A wife. A name on paper. A warm body to parade at fundraisers. A media clean image to bury the headlines from last year when his fiancée, Victoria Dane, left him standing on a yacht, diamond ring still in his palm. He didn't want messy. He wanted safe. I was quiet. No social media, no exes, no drama, no voice loud enough to make trouble. I came with a failing bookstore and a dying family name, and when they offered the deal, 1 year of marriage, in exchange for financial rescue, I said yes. They said I'd be introduced as his bride in a quiet, closed ceremony. No press, no drama, no pain. They were wrong about all three. The wedding was at Manhattan Grand, white marble, crystal chandeliers, the kind of wealth you don't walk through. You get escorted by someone with a clipboard and a headset. There were no guests, no music, no mother to fix my veil. Just the scratch of pen on parchment and the faint hum of air conditioning as a man I didn't know signed a future we would both regret. I wore a designer gown I didn't pick, with lace that scratched my skin and a neckline lower than I was comfortable with. I looked the part, but I felt like a character I didn't audition for. Leonard stood at the end of the aisle like a stone statue. Sharp jaw, silver cufflinks, and eyes that never once found mine. He didn't say hello, didn't nod. He just checked his watch. I tried to breathe through it. I told myself this wasn't about love. It was survival. A transaction. 1 year of my life in exchange for saving what my mother built. I was ready for that. I was ready for cold. But I wasn't ready for her. Victoria walked in like smoke. Slow. Quiet. Invasive. Black heels, red lipstick, and a smirk that said she knew exactly what she was doing. She didn't sit. She didn't speak. She stood in the hallway, far enough not to be noticed, but close enough to watch everything. Leonard saw her. Of course he did. His shoulders stiffened. His eyes shifted. And for the first time, he turned to me. Really turned. Then he did something that wasn't in the script. He stepped forward, slipped his hand around my waist, and pulled me to him with a grip that said mine. Not gentle. Not sweet. A claim. Then he bent down, lips grazing my ear. "She's watching," he said, voice low. "Good. You're mine now." And then he kissed me. Not a wedding kiss. Not for the camera. A kiss made of fire and salt and history I didn't belong to. A kiss meant to make someone hurt, and that someone wasn't me. But I felt it anyway. Because somewhere in the middle of it, my body forgot this was pretend. I didn't kiss him back. But I didn't stop him either. I stood still, heart pounding, aware of every cell in my body, every inch of his hand at my spine, every breath between us that said this wasn't just about the deal anymore. He pulled back. Not a word. Not a smile. Just turned and nodded at the officiant. We signed the papers. Victoria was gone before I could blink. Her presence lingered like perfume in a room that had already gone cold. Back in the suite, I peeled off the dress and sat on the edge of the bed, still half-zipped. My fingers trembled. I told myself it was exhaustion, that nothing had changed, but something had. Because when he kissed me, I saw something I wasn't supposed to see. Not desire. Not possession. Desperation. Leonard Falk wasn't kissing me to make her jealous. He was kissing me like a man trying to prove, to himself, to her, maybe even to me, that he hadn't been ruined. And I didn't know how to feel about that. I was supposed to be the fake wife, the girl who got paid to keep quiet and smile. But now I was wondering if I'd just become something else entirely. A mirror for his pain. A placeholder for what he lost. Or maybe someone he wouldn't be able to ignore. I didn't sleep that night. I lay awake listening to the walls, wondering if he was on the other side of them thinking about her. Or thinking about me. I hate how much I wanted it to be the second one. What hurts more? Loving someone who doesn't love you, or stepping into a marriage where love never existed? Maybe the answer is being the second choice in both. The elevator ride up to the suite was silent. Leonard didn't speak. Neither did I. I felt the warmth of his palm still pressed into my lower back, like a phantom touch. My skin remembered the pressure even after his hand had dropped. I wasn't sure if I wanted it back, or wanted to burn it off. He slid the keycard. The suite door swung open, and I stepped into a world I'd never seen before. Everything was glass, steel, marble, cold, intentional, beautiful in that soulless, curated way that told you someone paid an interior designer a disturbing amount of money to say, "Make it untouchable." He gestured inside. I walked. He didn't follow immediately. Only when I heard the soft click of the door shutting behind me did I realize we were completely alone. Married, legally bound. Strangers. I turned around. He was leaning against the door, jacket still on, tie loosened just enough to look deliberate. "Do you want to talk about what just happened?" I asked. He raised an eyebrow. "No." "Right. Of course not." My voice cracked on the last syllable, but I covered it with a nod and walked toward the bedroom. I wasn't sure where I was allowed to sleep or what the expectations were, but I figured pretending not to care was safer than asking. The door to the master bedroom was already open. I stepped inside and froze. There were photos, framed on the walls, perched on bookshelves. Stuck in crystal stands on the nightstand. All of her Victoria, laughing, turning over her shoulder, wearing a navy slip and nothing else, caught mid-laugh in some distant sunlit place. The room smelled like whatever perfume she must have worn. Citrus and musk and a sweetness that didn't belong to me. This wasn't a room. It was a shrine. My fingers curled. I backed out. I didn't even realize Leonard was behind me until I turned and collided with his chest. His hands came up instinctively, one at my waist, the other at the base of my neck. A practiced move. Possessive. Like earlier, except now, we were truly alone. "I'm not her," I said quietly. His jaw tightened. "I didn't ask you to be, but you put me in her room. You're my wife. You don't even know my favorite color." He didn't answer. I tried to step around him, but he caught my wrist, gentle but firm. "You knew what this was when you signed," he said. Nodded. "Yes. I just didn't know you'd still be in love with her while doing it." Something flickered behind his eyes. Fury, maybe. Or shame. It vanished too fast to read. Then came the knock. Not a knock exactly. More like a fingernail. Tap on the glass. Barely there. But we both heard it. He turned toward the living room, toward the hallway window. And there she was. Victoria. Still here. Still watching. She didn't say a word. She just stared through the window like she had every right to. Like she was inspecting a piece of furniture she once owned. Leonard looked at me. And something in him snapped. He pulled me to him, fast and full of fire. No hesitation this time. No audience but her. And me. His mouth crashed onto mine, hot and rough and undeniably real. His hand slid down my spine, gripping my hips like he needed to anchor himself to something that wasn't made of glass. I gasped. His lips trailed to my jaw, then to my neck. Breath hot, uneven. There was nothing performative now. This wasn't a show for her. This was for him, for me, for both of us. Let her see. He growled against my throat. Let her watch. She gave this up. It's mine now. I should have pulled away. This was toxic. This was wrong. But I didn't move. My fingers clenched his shirt. My body answered before my brain did, arching into him, heat pooling low in my belly. My lips parted, half in protest, half in need. He kissed me again, this time deeper, slower. And when he pulled away, just enough to look me in the eye, I didn't see Victoria in his pupils. I saw pain, raw, human, desperate. I reached up, cupped his cheek. You're not hurting her, I whispered. You're hurting yourself. His hands dropped. He stepped back, just once. Enough for air to return, enough for the spell to break. Victoria was gone. I didn't know when she'd left. Maybe she never saw anything at all. He turned from me, walking toward the bar, poured whiskey, drank it without blinking. I waited, and then I spoke, softer this time. You can't use me to erase her. Leonard said nothing, so I left the living room and closed myself in the guest bedroom. It was colder, plainer, but it didn't smell like someone else's story. I curled into the bed, still dressed, pulse still racing, and tried to remember what I agreed to. 1 year, one lie, one life I never asked for. But even with the door closed, I could still feel his kiss, still hear his voice. Let her see. It's mine now. Was I? Was I really his? Or had I just become another ghost in this penthouse made of mirrors? The morning after didn't come with sunshine. It came with silence. I woke in the guest bedroom, still in yesterday's dress, my skin stiff with dried sweat and guilt. The room was dim, filtered light seeping through blackout curtains that muffled the city into a dull hum. I didn't hear Leonard. Part of me was grateful. The other part wasn't. I found the closet already filled with clothes. Not mine, but new. Clean, neutral tones, simple lines, like someone had guessed what a quiet girl might wear without asking her who she was. There were no bright colors, no lace, no personality. Everything fit, but none of it felt like mine. There was a note on the bathroom mirror, taped in the corner. Driver will pick you up at 11. You're expected for lunch at the Foundation board meeting. Wear the navy. No signature, just expectation. Possession doesn't always come with chains. Sometimes it arrives in monogrammed silk and silence. I pulled on the navy dress. It hugged my waist too perfectly, like it had been chosen not just for me, but around me. The shoes were a half-size tight, just enough to remind me with every step that I didn't belong in this world. Not yet. The driver didn't speak. The meeting was at a rooftop venue overlooking Central Park. Glass walls, white tablecloths, tall chairs with thin legs that made you feel too loud even when you whispered. Leonard was already there. Of course he was. He didn't greet me, just looked up from his tablet long enough to give a shallow nod, then gestured toward the seat next to him. Everyone else was in suits, pearls, and politeness so sharp it could kill you with a smile. They asked me nothing. They asked about me as if I weren't there. She seems quiet. Is she from the city? Oh, Vermont. How rustic. Leonard said nothing. Didn't defend, didn't engage, just let them talk, sip, judge. I smiled. Quiet, polite, agreeable. But something in me shifted. I watched him, through the rest of the meal. His hands, The way he held his glass, the controlled boredom in his eyes. He wasn't here for me. He was here with me to prove something. To them, to her, maybe to himself, but not to me. I was a placeholder in a designer dress, and I was done pretending that didn't bother me. Back at the penthouse, I didn't go to the guest room. I walked straight into the main suite and opened every drawer. It wasn't an act of rebellion. It was research. I needed to know the battlefield. The closet was half empty. The other half still smelled like her. Victoria's ghost lingered in everything. Her perfume. Her lipstick shade scribbled on a post-it. Her book, open on the nightstand, dog-eared mid-chapter like she meant to come back but forgot. I walked to the bookshelf. It was curated. First editions, collector's prints, untouched. Decorative intelligence. Then I saw it. My book. My mother's book, actually. A signed copy of A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf. I knew it because of the scribbled note on the first page. I wrote it when I was 10. To Mom, so we can read it together every year. Claire. How did he have this? I didn't remember selling it. Didn't remember letting it go. I pulled it off the shelf like it might burn me. My hands trembled. You left. That behind the day you signed the contract, came a voice from the doorway. Leonard. He didn't look sorry, or smug, just tired. That book wasn't part of the deal, I said. No, but you were. And what am I now? He walked in, poured himself a drink at 2 in the afternoon like that was normal, then leaned on the counter. You want a definition? I want the truth. He looked at me, really looked. Something heavy passed between us. It wasn't attraction. It was recognition. He knew I wasn't the same girl from the bookstore. I knew he wasn't the same man from the altar. He set the glass down, untouched. You're the only person in this place who doesn't want something from me, he said. That's not true. I want my life back. His jaw ticked. That, I can't give. But you can give me space. He narrowed his eyes. This is your space. No. This is her space. I'm breathing in her shadows, sleeping in her sheets, wearing her dress. And you're still performing like she's watching. Silence stretched between us like a snapped string still vibrating. Then he stepped forward. Close. Closer. Not touching, but near enough that I felt his heat crawl across my skin. Don't mistake control for cruelty, he said. Don't mistake silence for submission, I replied. His gaze didn't falter. Neither did mine. And then something rare happened. He stepped back. No games, no threats. Just a single nod. He left the room. I exhaled, not realizing. I'd been holding my breath. My heart thundered in my chest. Not from fear, but from the thrill of standing my ground. For the first time since this marriage began, I felt like something shifted. He didn't win this round. I didn't either. But the rules had changed, and I wasn't going to be his ghost. Not anymore. The invitation came 2 days later, gold-trimmed, hand-delivered, no RSVP required. It wasn't from Leonard. It was from her, Victoria Dane. A private charity event hosted at the Whittemore Club. Cocktails, conversation, connections. The kind of evening where power disguised itself in canapes and crystal flutes. I almost threw it away. Almost. But something in me, a mixture of stubborn pride and stupid curiosity, refused to stay hidden. If she wanted to see me, she could. See me standing, not folding. Leonard didn't ask where I was going. He was in his office, shirt sleeves rolled to the elbow, tie discarded, eyes red-rimmed from hours behind screens. He looked like a man trying to outrun something. I didn't interrupt. I wore a black dress. Not from the closet he'd filled, but one I'd bought myself years ago, when I still thought a date meant something more than leverage. It didn't fit perfectly anymore. But at least it was mine. The Whittemore Club was colder than I expected. Elegant, yes, but cold. Everything was designed to intimidate. High ceilings, dim lighting, the scent of aged scotch soaked into velvet and mahogany. A place where women didn't speak unless introduced, and men smiled with knives behind their teeth. And then there she was. Victoria. Not standing at the center of the room. Oh no, that would be too obvious. She stood by the far window, drink in hand, a half-smile curving her lips like she knew how the night would end. She didn't wave. She didn't blink. She just tilted her head slightly, like she'd been expecting me. I didn't wait for someone to drag me over. I walked. Each step felt like walking through fire laced with silk. Beautiful, dangerous, stupid. "Claire," she said, as if we'd known each other for years. "Victoria." She handed me a glass. I didn't take it. "I wasn't sure you'd—" "Come," she said, sipping hers. "Leonard's taste in women has never been predictable." I wasn't aware this was about taste. "Oh, it's not," she said with a smirk. "It's about optics. You're a good choice for that. Polished, quiet, easily posed." I kept my face still. I didn't realize we were being compared. Don't flatter yourself. There is no comparison. I finally took the drink, not to be polite, to buy time. She turned to face the window, the city stretching behind her like an endless battlefield she'd already conquered. "He kissed you, didn't he?" she asked. I didn't answer. I watched. From the hallway. Her voice lowered, like silk sliding across broken glass. "That kiss, it wasn't for you. It was for me. You left him. I let him go." "Right. Because that's what it looked like. Him on a yacht, and you on every tabloid cover for weeks." Her smile didn't falter. "He was convenient. I outgrew him." "No," I said. "You saw he couldn't be controlled forever, and you left before he learned how to see you for who you are." Her eyes narrowed. There it was. The fracture. She stepped closer, her perfume curling around me like poison. "Do you know what happens when a man like Leonard starts thinking he can be loved again?" she said, voice low, almost kind. "He forgets who he is. He forgets who made him." "You didn't make him," I said quietly. "You broke him." And then she did something unexpected. She laughed. "Darling," she said, lifting her glass. "You can't break what's already hollow." And with that, she turned and walked away. I stood there for several seconds after, my hands trembling slightly, not from fear, but from fury. She wanted me to crack, to wilt, to walk out and never show my face again. But I wouldn't give her that. Instead, I walked over to the nearest waiter, traded my untouched drink for a new one, and took a long, slow sip. Victoria Dane didn't scare me. Not anymore. When I got home, Leonard was in the living room, still in his office clothes, shirt rumpled, collar open. A half-empty tumbler sat beside him. The television was on, but he wasn't watching it. He looked up as I came in, and for the first time in days, really looked. "You saw her?" he said. I nodded. His eyes flicked to my face, searching. "And?" "She still thinks you belong to her," he scoffed. "She can think what she wants." "And what do you think?" He didn't answer. I didn't push. Instead, I walked past him toward the hallway, toward the bedroom I had started to avoid less and less. I didn't close the door behind me. Let him wonder. In the mirror, I looked older. Not by years, but by knowing. By choosing to stand in a room where I didn't belong and stay anyway. There was no satisfaction in it, no clean victory. But there was strength, The kind of strength that grows when a ghost tries to haunt you. And you stay standing. Because you've already buried worse. It was nearly midnight when I heard the piano. A single note. Then another. Soft. Hesitant. Like someone searching for the shape of a memory in the dark. I padded barefoot down the hall. The penthouse was still. No city noise, no clocks ticking. Just that low, echoing sound, full of something I didn't have words for. He was sitting at the grand piano, shirt sleeves rolled, glass of whiskey untouched beside him. His back to me, but I didn't have to see his face to feel the weight in his shoulders. I stepped closer. "You play?" I asked. Leonard didn't turn. Not well. "That's the first honest thing you've said to me." He paused, hands hovering, above the keys, then, "Why are you still here?" A question I'd asked myself too many times. But tonight, I didn't lie, because I'm not afraid of you anymore. He turned slowly, eyes darker than I remembered, rimmed with something that looked a lot like exhaustion, or restraint. "And what are you afraid of?" he asked. "Not being seen. Being touched like I don't exist. Being someone else's replacement." Silence. Then, he stood. The space between us was wide at first, then smaller, then gone. His fingers brushed my wrist, soft at first, testing. But I didn't move. He looked at me like he was waiting for permission. I gave it. I rose up on my toes, kissed him, before he could overthink it. Before he could calculate or manipulate or use it as a message to anyone but me. It wasn't slow or sweet. It was sharp, hungry, real. His hands cupped my jaw, thumbs brushing my cheeks as if memorizing them. He kissed me like he hadn't been, touched in years, and maybe he hadn't. Not like this. Not without a hidden motive. Not without ghosts in the room. I pressed into him, letting my hands move beneath his shirt, tracing the lines of his stomach, the cut of his waist. He sucked in a breath, low and tight, as if my touch short-circuited him. He backed me into the wall. Not rough, just decisive. Mouth on my neck now, hands sliding down to my hips. I wrapped my legs around his waist, gasped when he lifted me. Effortless, like I weighed nothing. Like gravity didn't apply when he wanted something. He carried me into the bedroom. Not hers. Not mine. Ours. He set me down on the bed like something precious. Then paused. "Say stop," he whispered, voice frayed at the edges. "If this isn't what you want." I reached for the buttons of his shirt. "I'll tell you when." That broke him. He kissed me harder this time, hands tangling in my hair, pulling until my breath stuttered. I pulled his shirt open, shoved it off. He gripped the hem of my dress, paused once for air, then yanked it over my head in a single, fluid motion. His mouth found my collarbone, then lower, fingers tracing, pressing, undoing me in ways that made the room tilt. My hands clawed at his belt, trembling but determined. There was no performance this time, no ghosts, no revenge, just skin, breath, want. And when he pushed inside me, slow, deep, with a low growl that vibrated in his chest, I didn't think. I just felt. We moved together in a rhythm that wasn't choreographed, but inevitable. My nails left half moons on his back. His hand cradled the back of my neck like he didn't want to lose me, even as he took me apart. There were no words, just sound. My moan, his gasp, the slap of skin against skin, the rough snap of his hips, the thud of the headboard, then stillness, followed by the sharp, sweet ache of being full, claimed, cracked wide open. He didn't collapse. He held himself above, me, forehead pressed to mine, breath uneven. I stroked his jaw. "You're shaking," I said. I didn't expect." "What?" that you'd feel like peace. He rolled to his side, pulling me with him, arms wrapping tight as if to anchor himself to something real. I tried to use you, he whispered. At first. I know. I wanted to forget her, to win something back. I tucked my face into his neck. And now? His hand slid down my spine. A soft exhale. Now, I can't breathe when you're not in the room. We lay there, tangled in sweat and sheets and silence. But for the first time, it didn't feel empty. It felt like a beginning. When you give yourself to someone, you don't expect applause, but you do expect truth. Or at the very least, the absence of lies. I woke up alone. The sheets beside me were still warm, but Leonard was gone. The door was cracked, faint murmurs drifting in from the hallway. I pulled on a robe and padded quietly, toward the sound. I froze when I heard her voice. Victoria, smooth, calm, like nothing had ever happened. Like she belonged here. Didn't take you long, she was saying, her tone light. You always did move fast when you needed a distraction. Leonard didn't respond. Or if he did, I didn't hear it. I edged closer, close enough to see the curve of her back from where she leaned against the kitchen counter, drink in hand. You think she's different? She continued. That she's not here for the same reasons everyone else is? I didn't breathe. She's just smarter about it. Quiet, strategic. Virgin or not, she's playing the long game. Leonard, please. You don't think someone like her ends up here by accident, do you? Then she said it, the line that landed like a knife between my ribs. She's an escort, or close enough. You know that, don't you? Silence. A beat. 2. Leonard didn't defend me. I stepped into the room, barefoot, robe cinched tight. My voice was steady, colder than I felt. Should I make you both coffee? Or would you prefer I go fetch my rate card? Victoria turned, eyebrows arched in triumph. Leonard's face was unreadable. Too still. She just showed up, he said, to no one in particular. She wanted to talk. Talk? I laughed, but it came out wrong, brittle. That's what this was? She was leaving, he added quickly. I'm not the one who needs to leave, I said, staring straight at Victoria. You had your turn, you threw it away. She stepped closer, voice soft. Sweetheart, I didn't throw anything away. I walked before it got pathetic. I turned to Leonard. And you? Do you believe her? He didn't answer. That was worse than a yes. I packed a bag in less than 3 minutes. Not much, just enough. I didn't care about the rest. Not the dresses, not the shoes, not the books I hadn't touched. I left the wedding ring on the marble sink, not out of spite. Out of clarity, when I opened the door, Leonard was there, blocking it. I didn't say anything, he said. I know, I whispered. That's the problem. His jaw clenched. I didn't believe her. But you didn't stop her either. You didn't tell her she was wrong. You didn't even look at me. I was trying to process. Then you should have processed before you invited her into the home where I just gave you every piece of me. His eyes flicked down. I didn't invite her. She just showed up. She always does, I said, stepping past him. And you always let her in. I didn't go back to Vermont right away. Instead, I booked a hotel room in Midtown. Cheap, windowless, tucked between 2 buildings no one noticed. I turned off my phone. I stared at the ceiling. I cried once, then stopped, because it didn't fix anything. The next morning, I walked to the only place that still felt mine. The bookstore. It had reopened last week under new staff, but the manager, a woman named Helen who remembered my mother, let me behind the counter without question. Ran my fingers along the shelves like greeting old friends. Then I found it. The copy of A Room of One's Own, the one Leonard had on his shelf, still here. untouched. My note inside, to Mom, so we can read it together every year. I stared at the inscription, like it could talk back. If he still had this, then the one in his penthouse was a copy. He'd replaced the original with one of his own. He hadn't stolen anything. He'd tried to give it back to me, in the only way he knew how. I sank onto the stool, heart aching with something that wasn't clean regret, but wasn't forgiveness either. Later that afternoon, someone knocked on the shop door. It was raining. A soft, steady drizzle that made the world quieter somehow. Leonard stood on the other side of the glass, soaked to the bone. No umbrella, no coat. I didn't move. He knocked once more, then opened the door on his own. "Claire," he said, his voice hoarse. I looked at him and felt everything. "I know you don't want to see me. You're right." He didn't flinch. "I was wrong," he said, "for not speaking, for letting her talk like that, for freezing when you needed fire." I waited. He stepped forward, slowly, cautiously. "I saw something in you I didn't know how to handle, not control, not predict. You terrify me." "Good," I said. "I'm not here to make you comfortable." His eyes softened. "I don't want comfortable anymore." A pause. He pulled something from his coat pocket. The original book. My copy. "I never meant to keep it from you. I just wanted something real in that house, even if you never knew." He handed it to me with both hands, like it weighed everything he'd never said. And I took it. Not because I forgave him yet, but because I still wanted to. The rain hadn't stopped in hours. It blurred the glass storefront until the street outside disappeared, like the world had dissolved into water and memory. Inside the bookstore, I sat on the wooden stool behind the counter, a copy of Rebecca in my hands. Though I hadn't turned a page in 20 minutes, I wasn't hiding. I was waiting. For the pain to dull. For the storm inside me to quiet. For something, anything, that made me feel in control again. That's when the door opened. A gust of cold air swept in first. Then him, Leonard. He looked like he hadn't slept. His shirt was soaked, his hair unkempt, shoes leaving muddy imprints across the hardwood. He held no umbrella, no defense. Just himself, and a desperation so visible it made my throat tighten. "Claire," he said quietly. I didn't stand. I didn't move. "You can't keep showing up like this," I said, voice low. "I know." "Then why are you here?" He swallowed hard. His eyes searched the room like he couldn't bear to look directly at me yet. Then he took a breath, stepped closer, and said the last thing I expected. "To see your mother." I blinked. "What?" He glanced around, then pointed at the photograph on the side shelf. The one of her holding a book, mid-laugh, taken years ago in this very store. "She built this place," he said. "I want her to know I'm not trying to take it from you." I stared at him, stunned. Not by what he said, but how he said it. Bare, unscripted, as if every wall had crumbled in the rain outside. "She's not here," I said. "She is," he replied. "She's in the way you talk about books, the way you arrange the shelves, the way you fight for things you love even when no one's looking." He took a slow step forward. I never had that. I grew up in houses that were beautiful, but empty. Quiet, but not peaceful. Everything was about image, winning, proving, owning. His voice cracked. And then you came in, all quiet fire and first editions, and you weren't trying to own anything. You just existed. Honestly. Without armor. And it scared the hell out of me. I stood up finally. The space between us still felt sharp, but it wasn't cruel anymore. Just honest. "I gave you everything," I said. "Not because I was weak, but because I trusted you wouldn't turn it into a weapon. I know. You let her into our space. I didn't stop her fast enough. I froze. I let old patterns decide for me, and that's not who I want to be anymore. I folded my arms. Then prove it. He nodded once, eyes burning. And then, he dropped to his knees. Not dramatic, not performative, just real. Right there, in the middle of the bookstore, in soaked designer clothes and shaking hands, Leonard Falk knelt before me like a man who had run out of defenses. I don't have a speech, he said, voice rough. I don't have flowers. I didn't even think you'd let me pass the door. I said nothing. I just want you to know. I see you. Not as a solution. Not as a distraction. As you. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was heavy. It asked, "Do you believe him now?" I didn't answer with words. I stepped forward, took his face in my hands, and kissed him. Not out of forgiveness. Not yet. Out of choice. He rose slowly, arms wrapping around me like he wasn't sure I'd stay. I leaned into him, breathing him in. Wet wool, rain, regret. I'm not a mirror, I whispered. I won't reflect the parts of you hate. No, and I'm not a second chance. He shook his head. You're my only one. We stood there for what felt like hours, wrapped in each other, and in everything we didn't know how to say. Eventually, I pulled back. If we're doing this, I said, we do it on even ground. No shadows, no contracts, no ghosts. He reached into his coat pocket, pulled out a folded sheet of paper, our marriage contract, and held it out. I took it, ripped it in half, then again, and again, until it was just paper and rain between us. That night, we didn't go back to the penthouse. We stayed in the back room of the bookstore, on the old velvet couch that creaked with every breath. We didn't undress each other. We didn't rush. We lay tangled together, fully clothed, like kids hiding from the storm, hearts beating in sync. I don't want to win you, he whispered, forehead against mine. You can't, I said. But I'll choose you. Every day. If you let me. I didn't promise anything. But I reached for his hand and didn't let go. We didn't go back to the penthouse. Not the next day. Not the next week. Leonard offered, more than once. But I shook my head every time. I don't want to live in a place where I was used, I told him. I want to build somewhere I'm wanted. So he didn't argue. He listened. And then he did something I never expected from a man who used to have answers for everything. He asked, "Where do you want to go?" I said, "Nowhere." I wanted to stay right here, in the bookstore with peeling paint and mismatched stools. The only place I'd ever truly felt like myself. So that's what we did. He offered to renovate, but I told him no. Not yet. Not until I could still recognize it. So instead he helped me restock. We carried boxes, rearranged shelves, dust flew. He sneezed. I laughed. He smiled. And for the first time since our wedding, it wasn't strange to see him beside me. It was natural. Like the space between us had finally stopped pretending to be anything but ours. Victoria didn't call again. No letters, no visits. Just silence. The rarest and kindest gift she'd ever given. Leonard told me one night, over tea, that he'd sold the penthouse. All of it. Furniture, art, wine, memories. Gone. He moved into a brownstone on the east side. Nothing fancy. Brick. Windows that opened. A courtyard that needed sweeping. A kitchen that smelled like coffee instead of cologne. He handed me a spare key and said nothing when I didn't take it. Not yet. 3 weeks after the storm, I stood behind the bookstore counter and stitched a torn leather-bound copy of The Great Gatsby It was raining again, soft and steady. Leonard walked in, hair damp, holding something behind his back. "No flowers?" I teased. "Better." He pulled out a bag. Inside was a single ring box. I tensed. He saw it. "This isn't a proposal," he said quickly. "Not unless you want it to be. It's a question." I opened the box. Inside wasn't a diamond. It was a plain gold ring, engraved on the inside with 3 words. "Not for show." I looked at him. "This is the first thing I've given you that's not about them," he said. "Not about image, or press, or revenge. It's about you?" "No." He stepped forward. "It's about us." I didn't cry. I didn't speak. I just reached out, took the ring, and slid it onto my finger. Not as a symbol of ownership, but of return. That night, we went back to his place. The brownstone. The new place. He made pasta. Burned it slightly. Cursed. I laughed. He kissed me over the sink, water dripping from his hands. We made love slowly this time. No walls. No ghosts. No proving. Just skin and breath and quiet promises we didn't have to say aloud. When we lay there after, tangled in cotton sheets and the steady drum of rain on the windows, I turned to him and whispered, "Why me?" He looked at me, still half asleep, voice raw. "Because you never tried to fix me. You just stayed long enough for me to want to fix myself." I touched his chest, felt the heartbeat under my palm. I used to think being chosen meant being rescued. And now? Now I know it means choosing back. He pulled me closer. "You're not mine because I claimed you," he said. "You're mine because you looked at the worst of me and stayed. And you," I said, "are mine because you let go of the mask, not the man." The rain kept falling. We fell asleep to it. Finally, without armor. The next morning I opened the shop. At 9 sharp. Customers came, bought books, left. At noon, Leonard walked in with lunch. A quiet ritual now. No flash, no headlines. Just him and me and tomato soup. He watched as I helped a teenage girl find her first copy of Jane Eyre. Her eyes lit up when I told her it was a story about a woman who knew her worth, even when no one else did. Leonard smiled from behind the counter, arms crossed. "She reminds me of you," he said after the girl left. "I'm not that brave," I replied. "Yes," he said. "You are." He pulled me in by the waist, kissed my forehead, then whispered, "Quiet, final, absolute, mine, forever." I leaned my head on his chest. Not owned, not claimed, chosen. And for the first time, not because I had nowhere else to go, but because this right here was exactly where I wanted to be. You might be wondering why I stayed. Why I didn't slam the door the first time he went silent. Why I let a man with too many walls and too many ghosts take up space in my life. Here's the truth. I didn't stay because I was weak. I stayed because I recognized a part of myself in him, the part that wanted to be loved without having to earn it. And maybe you know that feeling too. Maybe you've stayed. In a marriage that felt like a job. In a house that grew too quiet after the children left. In a life that stopped asking what you wanted. We all carry a story behind our eyes that no one sees unless they ask. And too often, no one does. But here's the thing. They never tell you in fairy tales or contracts, or even in real love. Healing doesn't happen when someone saves you. Healing happens when someone sees you and stays. Even when you're messy. Even when you're guarded. Even when you flinch before being touched, emotionally or otherwise. Leonard didn't save me. And I didn't save him. We saved ourselves. Side by side. Because real love, the kind that lasts, isn't loud. It's not the grand gesture. It's in the apology whispered at midnight. The meal cooked badly, but with intention. The silence that doesn't need to be filled. And if you're reading this now, maybe long after your first love is gone, or your last love disappointed you, let me say something I wish someone had said to me sooner. You are not too old to be wanted. You are not too late to be chosen. And you have never been too much to be loved right. That's not fiction. That's not fantasy. That's truth. It just takes longer to find the kind of love that's worth standing in the rain for. But when it comes, don't walk away from it. Choose it. Choose you. Thank you for staying with me through this story. If you were in my place, would you have stayed? Would you have forgiven? Do you still believe love can start again, even after the hurt? I hope so. Because if you're still here, still breathing, still hoping, then it's not too late. Not for love. Not for healing. Not for you. If this story moved something in you, even a little, give it a like so others might find it too. And if you want more stories that stay with you long after the screen goes dark, hit subscribe. We're just getting started. You deserve stories that speak to where you've been and where you're still brave enough to go.